Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and I teach watercolor here at Let's Make Art, and today we are painting the duck.
Wow, ducks.
I was hoping you would say quack.
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 Quack. Wait, is that a duck?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is it?
Or a goose?
It's a duck for sure.
Okay.
Okay, we are going to do this painting in 5 steps. So the very first step, we are going to do the beak and the eye and the nostril. Our second step, we are going to be doing the shading of the neck and the underbelly. Third step, we are going to be working on the shading on the head and the little bum, the tail feathers. And the fourth step, we'll do the feet. Fifth step is just some texture details, so that's it.
If you're just stumbling upon us, that thing strapped to Sarah is a child.
Oh yes, this is my son, Arlo, and he's new, so he's got to stay with me all the time. And this is my husband, Michael, who is filming. The nice thing about being married to a videographer is even when we're quarantined, we can still get these done for you, which is good. So Keenan's staying at home with his family and being healthy and safe.
Hi, Keenan.
And I wonder if he'll ever see this.
Probably not.
And we're just working here today. So we got our little family here. I'm going to be using 4 colors with this project and 2 paintbrushes. So my paintbrushes are Princeton round 6 and a round 2. We use these for just about all of our projects. And we recently renamed them. The small one is Brock and the large one is Keenan. 6 and a 2. We have 4 colors here. You can see my palette is a little bit crazy. Apparently I did not dry it before I put the colors down, which is why they did this. But
she's being modest. I didn't dry it. That's my fault.
It's actually really cool, so I'm going to leave it. So the 4 colors that we are going to be using, the first one is Tahoe Blue. The second one is Fuchsia. The third one is Deep Yellow. Oh, there we go. And the last one is Burnt Orange, which is kind of a reddish orange, really pretty. Okay, so we are going to do the outline, then the oath, then the warm-ups, and then get painting. If you are familiar with all of these things, you can go ahead and skip.
Except the oath.
Yeah, don't skip the oath.
And the warm-ups.
And the
outline.
And the outline, you guys.
Don't skip it.
Don't skip it. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside for now, and here is a printed outline. If you subscribe or buy the kit, this will come in with a sheet of graphite paper. If you don't, you can still get this outline for free on our website. I think if you go to our About section on our website, there is a little tab there called Downloads, Outline Downloads. And you can get all of the outlines from all of our projects that have outlines for free.
That is a brand new sheet of graphite paper.
Yes, it is.
Dang.
Okay, so when you do graphite paper, if you press hard with hard pressure at all, you're going to get a really dark line. So you have a micron pen in your April box, but I don't know if I would suggest using this pen to do an outline. Let me check it. So I tape my outline down to my paper and then do graphite dark shiny side down. And then I like to make a test line and then I lift it up to see, oh, that's not too dark at all. So I'm actually just going to use my micron. But I've noticed that felted pens are a really great way to outline because the tip is naturally softer and they're usually colored, so you can see kind of where you've already drawn. Now, if you outline it and untape it and then notice that there is an area that you forgot to outline, it's like impossible to try and tape the outline back on. So just eyeball it. It's not a big deal. The outline is just kind of a guide for you guys. You don't have to follow it exactly. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just don't want drawing to stop people from painting, because drawing is hard. It's a really difficult skill to learn. And I still think that you can learn how to paint and have fun, which is really the point, without being like the most amazing drawer. Also, my son sometimes snores, You might hear him snoring. Hopefully that does not make you angry.
I think if baby snoring makes you angry, you got bigger problems.
Maybe. Almost done. Missed over here. Ooh, missed the top part here. Okay, I think I'm good. Okay, now we are going to do our oath. So if you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
I promise to have fun.
Thank you. Okay, and now we're going to do our warm-up. So really, all we're going to practice is values and just how to do some small markings with our detailed brush. So value is all about the lightness and darkness of a color. It's not necessarily about the hue of the color. If you want to get a lighter value in watercolor, all you have to do is add more water to it. So I'm going to pick up some paint. You can do any color, let's say blue. And I'm going to paint with that. And then I'm just going to dip my paintbrush in the water, hit it off the side of the cup a couple of times, paint next to it, see how it's already a lighter value, and you can just keep on going. And this last one, can they see that?
Yeah.
That might seem, especially if you come from like oil painting or acrylic painting, that might seem so light to you that you're like, no, that's not right. But the beautiful thing about watercolor is just like these really soft hints of color to give you shape and form, and using the full spectrum of values is how you create form. So instead of looking at this as like a non-color, look at it as like an extreme highlight. Okay, so that's value. And you can do it the opposite way too. So this is why I like the butcher trays, because I have easier, I have more control over how much paint I pick up in a flat surface than in the wells. So if I am coming with a clean brush and I just dip my paintbrush toe in the water, in the paint, and paint with that, that's a really light value. And then I can just keep adding a little bit more paint, kind of get my brush more in there each time. With the last one, I'm going to be fully dipping my brush in the like darkest part of that paint. Okay? This is a great practice to do. Learning the ratio of paint to water is a difficult thing. So if you're a beginner and you're struggling with it, don't give yourself a little bit of grace and like, you know, like take a breather. It's okay. You'll get there eventually. It just takes practice. Okay, next thing we're going to practice is just thin lines with our round 2. So when you want to do a thin line with your round 2, you're going to hold the brush vertically, so straight up and down, and you're going to do light pressure. And that is how you get a thin line. Now I just kind of want to show you what it looks like if I'm going on it like horizontal, hold and pushing down. That's how thick of a line I can get. Which is the wonderful things about rounds, is they're versatile, but getting a thin line takes a little bit of finesse. The other tip, we don't have to do it in this project, but in other projects, if you're doing a long thin line, you don't want to rest your wrist, because then you're limited by how your wrist moves. So usually I'll put my wrist on the paper, but I won't like put my weight on it. I'll be moving my arm from my shoulder or my elbow. So then I can go as, oh, hold on. So then I can go as long as I need to go. Okay. I think we're ready to paint.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to start with is the beak. So I'm going to be using a lot of my burnt orange, a little bit of fuchsia, and my yellow. So you can see I kind of have outlined here where there are highlights, where there are shadows. So I'm taking my burnt orange and a little bit of fuchsia, and I'm going to start at the beak here. And then I'm going to work around the nostril. Here, it's darker underneath on the bottom part of the beak. And then I'm just going to rinse my brush and avoid the highlight. Okay, so I blended out my orange, and as you can see, I left the space for the highlight, and I want it to be yellower. So after you blend out your orange, you're gonna grab your deep yellow and just do a layer of deep yellow over the orange, and look how much that warms it up. And then you're going to add a little bit of water to your yellow and swoop it over the highlight so it's a light value over that highlight. I need to smooth out that other side. There we go. So we kind of want where the beak meets the head to be the darkest value of orange, and then underneath on this like bottom of the beak, and then it transitions out to a warm orange and then a really light yellow on the highlight on the edge. Here. Okay, so there's my beak. Now I'm going to do the eyes. You have noticed that we don't have black, but that's okay because when you're doing tiny little areas, all you really have to do is like a super dark value. So I'm just gonna mix the blue and the fuchsia and some burnt orange together. And maybe more blue so it's nice and dark. So you see how dark is on my palette right there? That's what we're gonna be working with. And I'm just using my round 2, and I'm going to be using the tip to paint. So it's a more vertical hold, and there's a tiny little white dot in there for a highlight. Okay, and you're just going to let that dry. It's super wet right now, so we're not going to mess with it. And then I'm going to check and make sure my beak is dry, and then I'm going to do my nostril on my beak. Now you can see I'm leaving kind of a white edge around my beak. We'll go back and fill that in. We're just going to leave that there for now. Okay, that was step 1. Now we're going to move on to step 2. I'm going to switch to my round 6 brush. And I'm going to, now you can mix your own colors to do for these shadows on our white animal. The nice thing, I think the fun thing about painting white animals is, one, you don't have to do a lot of painting because you're basically just painting the shadows, like the darker values. And also you can make the shadows whatever color you want. So I decided to do more like purpley shadows, but you guys can do more pink, you can do more orange if you want. It's totally up to you. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of my fuchsia and a little bit of my blue. I have this really pretty purple. If you want to bring in a little bit of yellow, you can, but just remember that purple and yellow are complementary colors. So if you do too much, it's going to turn it brown. And I'm just going to, underneath this jaw here, I'm going to start with a color. Let's grab a little bit more blue here. And then I'm just going to work my way down. And I have a line here of where this shadow should kind of end. And then I'm just going to use water to spread it down. So you basically want right underneath the chin to be the darkest value. I'm going to darken that up a little bit. gonna grab a little bit of yellow, just kind of like along the edges here, just for like a different color for visual interest, some would say. Okay, and I'm gonna ignore the head for now. And kind of right here, we have a little bit of a shadow. That's just kind of like we're showing where the neck is meeting the body and kind of coming out of the body.
Also, I think this is a good point if your duck is edgy to put the neck tattoos on.
Yes, but you want to make sure that your painting is dry before you do the neck tattoos, or else they'll just bleed out.
Yeah.
That'd be so funny. If you do neck tattoos, please show us. Post it in our group.
Also like a Post Malone under eye tattoo.
Yes, yes. These are all good ideas. Okay, and now I'm going to move on to like the underbelly part. So like the very bottom, I'm going to do more of a purplish blue. Here, maybe more blue. Grab some more pink to make it more purple. It's still a little bit too strong, so I'm going to grab more pink here. And let's say you lay down a color and you're like, man, that value is just too dark. You can always lighten it. So if I want to lighten it, if it's still wet, you could just take your paper towel and lift, or you can put water on top of it and then lift with the paper towel. Because we want to show that there's shading and value, but we don't want it to be so dark that it seems disjointed from the painting. So, and the reason why we're making this a darker value is because the duck is three-dimensional, it's round. So this part is like highlighted, because if the light is straight on, that's where it would be hitting the light the most. And then as the body turns away from the light, it gets darker because that light isn't hitting that area, which is why underneath here and in the back here we have a shadow. And then we're gonna kind of like tie-dye it just a little bit, bring in extra colors, pinks, yellows, oranges, kind of play with them, play with the mixture of them. I didn't really have any strong rhyme or reason to where these colors are. Just be careful of what colors are complementary so they don't turn too muddy. Now that pink was too strong, so I'm just going to use my paintbrush and lift the color and then blend it out. And I have some outlines here of when that shadow should kind of like start to taper off. Again, the outlines are just a suggestion. It's better for your transition to be smooth than for you guys to follow along with the outline exactly. Okay, and I feel like I just want a little bit more purple instead of pink. So just right on top. Okay, and let's see. The other thing that I just want to talk about really quickly is when you are doing your brush strokes, you kind of want to think of the form itself, and you want to, the direction of your brush stroke, it's like if you were painting on the thing itself. So what I'm saying is you don't want to go at this duck and paint straight up and down, because if you were painting on a duck, you couldn't do that because the body is actually turning away from you. Like you can't paint straight up and down. So you have to like round out and follow the shape of the form. And I know that seems weird, but you can actually tell a lot to your viewer by the direction of your brush strokes. So it's important to think about things like that. So when you're painting this, you're gonna kind of wanna like curve it or round it. If you do go up and down, kind of do a curve like this instead of straight horizontal up and down, because that's just gonna flatten whatever it is that you're trying to paint.
If this isn't clicking for you, just go ahead and grab a duck and some paint and
Listen,
just paint on your duck.
Find a duck, start painting it. You'll know what I'm talking about. It's fine. Turning out a bit more pink than my example, but I kind of like it. I do want this to be more purple though. Okay, now we're going to move on to our next step, which is step 3. We're going to do our little tail feathers and our head. I'm going to work on the tail feathers first because I still want to make sure that this is nice and dry. And I'm going to use that same kind of purplish, pink purple color. And it's going to be darkest kind of back here. And then I'm just going to add water to my brush, hit it off the side of my cup, and spread that kind of purple color across. It doesn't have to be even. You can see that I kind of like just didn't paint on some areas. We're just kind of showing that like this is the tail end of the bird. It's the farther away. Due to our perspective, we do see a hint of it, but we don't want it to feel up front. We don't want the shape to be like this. We want it to be like this and then a hint of the tail underneath. So that's why we're just doing just the softest little hint behind, on the behind. Okay, so I'm going back to my eye, and I've noticed that because I mixed all of my colors together and I did not add any water to it, my colors have bleedy edges. That's my bad. So when that happens, I'm just actually going to I'm just going to make, using a damp brush, I'm just going to smooth out the edges here so they're not bleedy, and just make the eye a little bit bigger than what I had in the example. Okay. And then I'm going to do this shading around the eye. So I'm going to switch to my 2. So I'm going to like leave an eyelid shape around my eye, especially on the bottom. And you want to make sure this is really like a thin white line. I give myself a little bit of extra space because I can always add more paint, and it's easier to do that than to like take it away. So I'm adding this shadow, and we're doing this because eye sockets always go in, right? If you feel your own face, you have your bone structure, which is what is protruding, which gives your face form, and you don't have any bones in your eye. It's just your eyeball that protrudes. So around your eye, it always goes in, which creates a shadow. So I kind of have that outlined there. And then, I know this is looking funny, just stay with me. Animals always look funny halfway through. I'm going to just use water and kind of blend it out here. So there's going to be a little bit of color on the face, just like the softest hint. And then it's a stronger color where the face meets the beak. So I start with putting my dark value in first, wet my brush, and just use water to blend out. Now this is looking too strong, that it's kind of looking like a coloring book a little bit, like blocky. So I'm just going to lighten it using a damp brush. I'm going to just lift up some of this color. little bit of yellow on there. Too strong yellow, too strong, that's fine. Take a paper towel, blot it. Okay. Okay, I think that is looking good. And now we're gonna move on to our feet. Okay, so using mostly burnt orange and yellow, you might have to mix a little bit of like blue and pink in there to get a really dark value. But basically the top of our feet, like where the legs are, is gonna be the darkest value because that's where it's coming out of the body. So I'm gonna mix a few of my colors together and put in this dark orange here. Now, if you mix blue in there and it turns green, that's okay. Just add a little bit of fuchsia to the mix. That will tone down the green. There we go. And a little bit on the other side too. Not as long. And then I'm going to take just regular orange, add that to it. And now I'm going to introduce some yellow. Now we have some shadows to like kind of define the shape of the webbed feet, but I don't want it to all bleed together. So I'm gonna like do the highlighted parts first, and then after it dries, I'll go in and put the shadows. So this one is gonna have a little bit of hint right here. And in between the feet, it's highlighted. So I'm gonna put that in there. And then I'm gonna do the other side. Okay, now while that dries, because it's too wet to put in just yet without it bleeding everywhere, we'll do some texture spots. Let me actually fill this in. Okay, so using your round 2, pick up whatever color your heart desires. I'm going to do more of a purple.
This is called hangout time with Brock. The brush.
It's Brock time.
It's Brock time.
And I'm just going to do a few little thin lines just here and there. And then we're going to have some, I have some in the outline that you guys can follow. A little bit on the chest. Just to give the softest hint that like this is not a perfectly smooth, this isn't a rubber duck. Like there are feathers, there are layers. We're not going to go into detail here, but we're going to give you enough so you guys know that there's a little bit of texture going on this bird. So here, so I have I did the chest, I did a little bit underneath the neck. I'm going to do a little bit on the forehead. Just use that tip ever so softly. Okay, and then we also have our tail feathers. So it's just mainly just like kind of going along the edge here. Like so. Okay. My feet are still wet, so I'm going to finish up my head and then I'll go back to my feet. I'm going to actually do another run of dark brown or dark orange on my beak. I really want to make sure that there is a shadow on this to give it a form. And then around the nostril. Can you see that close up? Is it in frame?
Yes. Sorry, I'm trying to keep little boy from squealing.
You're doing a good job. There we go. Oh yeah, that's the depth I was missing. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, since my nostril is dry, I'm going to take some yellow and just quickly swipe around the white edge. So there's still a highlight, but it's not so blaringly white. Okay. I'm going to do a quick swipe along the mouth here of it dark. Yeah, there we go. Look at that beak. Okay. What? Just how excited I am.
Just love you loving beaks.
Okay, and then we have to do something similar on the eye. So I want to tone down this white spot. So I'm just, with the damp brush, just like one swoop, one or two, to make it that dot more of a gray than a bright white. Now the other thing that you can use if like you want to clean up the eye shape a little bit more is you can use bleed proof white. And actually, let me see if I have some, because I think it would be really helpful for me to show you how to use it in a situation like this. So give me 1 second. Okay, I found some white. I'm going to take out the cap and kind of just dip my paintbrush in there. So what I'm going to do for this white is I'm actually going to reshape my eye. So I'm just going to go in with my two.
Brock will fix it.
Brock is fixing our little problems here. And you might have to do a layer or two to make it so you don't see any color underneath. And then I'm going to actually put a little bit of tiny little highlight back in that eye. Oh. Mess up. Is that eye too tiny now?
No, it's fine.
Maybe a little. I'm also going to, so this is why I love bleed proof white, is you can just like resharpen. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to it to make it like a light yellow. And now if you didn't mess up, you don't need to do this. But I kind of messed up, so I'm just showing you how you can correct it. I'm going to just put that edge back in the nostril, just a little bit. Okay. Okay, I think that's good. Now if you felt like you made your eye too tiny, you can wait for the white to dry and then do another work up on the eye. And I'm just going to kind of work on my eyelid a bit. I don't know why this duck is reminding me of like an 80s singer. Is it the colors? Is it the blue eyeshadow? Yeah. What should her name be? Barbara.
Barbara. She's the singer of Flock of Seagulls, but she's a duck.
I think I might have got a little too crazy with that blue, but that is okay. I don't know. I think that's the fun of just like, especially animals, because they have expressions, and as you paint them, like sometimes they look chill or mad or happy, or I feel like me adding that blue eyeshadow just made her fabulous. You know what I mean? Like she's...
Quack Benatar.
Quack Benatar, yes. So anyways, don't let things like that bother you. I think it's always just a fun thing, and they'll be different every time. And always name your animals, please. It just is so much fun. Okay, now let's finish up the feet and then we're done. So I still have my dark brown mixed here, or dark orange, which is essentially brown. And I'm just gonna go in and work up the shadows. So You can, if you have a reference photo, you can kind of follow along here of the shading that I have going on. And honestly, it's not like this, you can tell that like, it's not like I spent a lot of like hours working on these feet. I like to do more general shapes and colors because really we just need to give our viewers a hint, a form of what is going on, and our brain is so great at picking things up that that's really all we need to do. And then the brain is like, oh, those are duck feet, cool, and it moves on. And so for me, I'm like, great, I don't want to spend a lot of time on duck feet if like the brain is instantly going to recognize what it is just by putting orange and yellow down at the bottom, you know? Maybe that shows you how lazy I am, but that's okay.
You know, I've been thinking this whole time, which is funny, is how cute I think ducks are and how terrified of geese I am.
But they're
very similar.
pretty similar. Is it because geese are bigger?
Yeah, and terrible.
Yeah, they have those little sharp teeth.
They have like teeth on their tongue. Have you seen that picture?
No.
Yeah. All you at home, Google like a goose's mouth. They have teeth on their tongue.
Is it like sharks where it's like layers of teeth?
Yes.
Nuh-uh.
I'm gonna pull it up for you.
I love that blue eyeshadow on this duck so much. It is making me laugh so hard. I can't handle it.
They're all so terrifying. Hi, everyone.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that is so scary.
Aren't they scary? Look at this thing.
Yes. That's like alien.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Okay. Okay. I think she's done. She looks magnificent and a little bit more intense than my first deck, but I love that about her. I just quack Benatar, so perfect. Can't get over it. Michael, thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, if you guys painted this, I can't wait to see how your ducks have turned out. Please share them. You can post them on Instagram at Let's Go Make Art or hashtag Let's Make Art. We have a wonderful Facebook community that is for the sole purpose of you guys just sharing your artwork and connecting and supporting each other. That is called Let's Make Art Watercolor. If you need any of these supplies, you can get them on our website, letsmakeart.com, including this is your paint water cups. Because let me tell you how many times I've dipped my paintbrush in my beverage or have drank in my paint water. Done both. But these paints are non-toxic, so if it happens, it's not a big deal. I think that's it. Michael, thank you.
You're welcome.
You guys are awesome. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.